Wednesdays are for people's elbows, super kicks, and springboard cutters. You know what that means. It's the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast hosted by Michael Davis on Boom Broadcasting, and it's time to pick up that mic.
WrestleDream this Saturday for AEW. Bryan Danielson defends his AEW Championship and his career against former Blackpool Combat Club member Jon Moxley. Now, this event is in Bryan's home state of Washington. It's at the Tacoma Dome in Tacoma, Washington itself. There's a lot of matches on this card, by the way. You have Darby Allin versus Brody King. You have Jack Perry defending the TNT title against Katsuyori Shibata. You have a three-way match for the AEW International Championship that will blow people's minds. You have the Young Bucks defending the titles against Private Party. I still haven't watched AEW Dynamite from last night, so I'm not going to preview the entire card because there's probably matches that were made last night for AEW Dynamite. But I felt led to go in a different direction with this episode because usually before a pay-per-view, I predict the show just like everybody else, and I call it a day. And everybody's like, okay, you got your predictions in. You know, you may hit on some, you miss on most. That's okay. That's all right. I want to go a different route, and I am going to predict one match. I'm going to predict the main event of AEW WrestleDream when Bryan Danielson wrestles and defends against Jon Moxley. I fully believe this will be the last match of Bryan Danielson's AEW career. I believe that it's time. I believe Bryan Danielson loses. And as much as it hurts as a fan to say that, knowing that we are looking at Bryan Danielson's final match, it hurts. It's tough, actually, because of how much he has done, how much he has overcome. Not only in AEW, but his entire pro wrestling career. And I want to dedicate this match and I want to dedicate this podcast to Bryan Danielson, formerly known as Daniel Bryan, because he has given us some of the biggest moments as wrestling fans that we could be forever indebted to. Now, and I want to talk about my first introduction to Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan. Now, I heard about this Bryan Danielson on wrestling message boards and forums. I was like, okay, I mean, this is a guy other people watch in Ring of Honor. I wasn't super tied into Ring of Honor yet. But then I hear he comes to WWE and he's a part of NXT Season 1 that will always hold a special place in my heart. Like, and I'm going to miss one probably, but it had Wade Brer, it had Daniel Bryan, it had Justin Gabriel, Heath Slater, Skip Sheffield, Michael Tarver, Darren Young. I mean, it had these guys and later became Nexus. And Nexus was one of the hottest commodities. Bryan Danielson, at the time known as Daniel Bryan, was a part of that Netflix or Nexus debut. Raw will be debuting on Netflix here soon in January. Can't wait because then maybe we'll actually get a fluid 3-hour Monday Night Raw, or maybe 2.5. Who knows if they'll be restricted to time restraints. But Daniel Bryan choked out Justin Roberts when Nexus debuted, and he was released. And it was a legit release. He ends up coming back at SummerSlam to help Team WWE against Nexus. But he just continued to find odds. He was forever entwined with Daniel Bryan and The Miz, that rivalry. He was forever intertwined with that. And it was good, but it kept him in the United States, the mid-card picture, and you're like, okay, that's all he'll ever be. He then gets into a team with Kane, Team Hell No, and it keeps him in that range, but you see him pulling out the comedy stuff. You see he's an actual good wrestler, and then he starts getting some more, and he gets some more, and he gets some more reps, more opportunities, and he actually is standing in the ring with some legends, some all-time greats, a who's who in WWE, and people are chanting for the guy in the background, Daniel Bryan. John Cena acknowledges it, recognizes it, and that's when you realize Daniel Bryan might be a bigger star than we thought. And he was able to win the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. Triple H counted 3 and turned on Daniel Bryan. Randy Orton cashes in his briefcase, and there it goes. There goes the SummerSlam to WrestleMania program, whether Vince McMahon wanted it or not. Daniel Bryan literally took over the entire WWE universe into a yes movement, getting himself into the main event of WrestleMania. Also, was in a match earlier against Triple H. He beat all 3 Evolution members in one night at the biggest WrestleMania. Now, all of those landmarks for WrestleManias, the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and then now 35 and 40, they've all had their signature landmarks. And Daniel Bryan was that for WrestleMania 30. Like the Miracle on Bourbon Street will forever be replayed as history goes on. And well deserved too. Like, what a story. I mean, he was undeniable at one point. Before Cody Rhodes, Daniel Bryan was the one who was undeniable until a neck injury. And he had to forfeit the title. And then he comes back a year later, wins the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 31, has to relinquish that due to injury. And it just seemed to just be a lingering issue for Daniel Bryan. And he eventually had to retire for the first time. And he was a general manager for SmackDown, helped out Shane McMahon, who I'm sure we'll get to here in just a few moments. But he was able to come back. And he came back and he teamed with Shane McMahon. He wrestled Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And it was like, okay, he's back. Oh, he's back for real. And he's like wrestling and he's helping younger talent. But he was just stifled at one point in WWE. And then there was this new company called All Elite Wrestling, AEW. And they seemed to gather momentum. Like, they had Cody Rhodes and the Elite help out. Kenny Omega decided to start this new company as opposed to signing with WWE or staying in New Japan. You had Chris Jericho decide that he wasn't going to be a WWE lifer and signed with AEW. You had Hangman Page, a young upstart. You had Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, guys from TNA who had a lot of experience helping out. You had hopes with AEW. And then they announced that CM Punk is coming. They do the Last Dance. They do all of the Chicago. And you're like, wow, this is a real needle mover for CM Punk to actually come back to wrestling and join AEW. That's huge. That's massive. But it wasn't the needle mover that we thought, because CM Punk would wrestle and then he'd get the title and he'd get hurt. He wrestled again and then he'd get hurt. And he wrestled again and he decides to get in altercations backstage and he decides to go on that media scrum and just act very CM Punkish, very childish. And so that wasn't the needle mover. Well, a few moments before Bryan Danielson showed up in AEW, Adam Cole showed up, hugging Kenny Omega, hugging the Elite. It's like, oh my goodness, Adam Cole decided to not sign with WWE, decided not to shave his head bald and be a manager for Keith Lee. He's actually All Elite, one of the highest prospects in the world at the time. We thought that, in addition, CM Punk was going to be the needle mover, because Adam Cole can be immediately sprung into the world title picture. Unfortunately, the past few years for Adam Cole, the last 3, he's been injury prone. He can't stay healthy. But it was a swerve. It was the double debut that night that really moved the needle for AEW. And Bryan Danielson showed up. People were like, whoa. But part of you was like, this is Christian Cage. This is Sting. Maybe once in a while, maybe on a lighter schedule, maybe it won't work as much, maybe it won't work as hard. That wasn't it. He told you in that media scrum, he was there to effing wrestle. And by golly, did he. 30-minute classics, 60-minute classics, 5-star, 6-star matches. Bryan Danielson really was a staple for AEW the last 3 years. And then he wasn't winning championships. So it was just like, oh, he's just that guy to help elevate younger talent. He's enjoying his last run while it lasts. His contract's run out, and he's getting this main event show at All In, and he's going to lose to Swerve and put him over, and we're going to see the end of Bryan Danielson. Nope. He wins. He beats Swerve. And now he's wrestling until he drops this championship. And here I am to tell you that here is your spoiler alert. If you don't want this spoiled, days before WrestleDream takes place, you can stop watching now. Or if you're going to be upset about what I'm going to tell you, you can stop watching now, because Bryan Danielson's career ends this weekend. And it's at the hands of Jon Moxley and Shane McMahon. Yep. A couple months ago, Sean on Wrestling of Destiny addressed the rumors of Shane McMahon to AEW. But here's where it actually comes to fruition. All the signs are there. Bryan Danielson is in Washington. Where else would he prefer to lose and finish his career than his home state of Washington at the Tacoma Dome? That is key. We're not going to get another Washington pay-per-view for probably another 9 to 12 months. It'll probably be WrestleDream again. Bryan Danielson is losing, going out on his back at his hometown. And this is the perfect way to introduce Shane McMahon as the most massive heel in the world, joining forces with Jon Moxley. And it makes sense that Bryan Danielson, his final time in the ring as a full-time competitor, is at the hands of Jon Moxley. Moxley came in as an AEW original. Moxley came in after his time in WWE, a place where he spent time with Bryan Danielson, formerly known as Daniel Bryan. You know, Moxley, formerly known as Dean Ambrose, was the guy on SmackDown Live in 2016. But you know who the commissioner was of SmackDown Live? Shane McMahon. You know who was the general manager of SmackDown Live? Daniel Bryan. It comes full circle this weekend. I don't see him wrestling a full year with this title. I don't see him wrestling much longer. I'll be honest, I didn't even see him winning at All In. It was tough. It was a toss-up. But he gets to wrestle in front of his home fans, gets a send-off at the end, and he puts over Jon Moxley, who is going to be that bad guy, who's going to be that heel, who's going to be that over competitor that you can put in the main event of any match, and he will have forever marked to his name that he retired Bryan Danielson, which I'm sure they're real good friends in real life. That's what's going to happen this weekend. But I wanted to dedicate Drop the Mic this week to Bryan Danielson, because I wanted to say thank you. This whole WrestleDream card, you may say it's thrown together, but it was done very intentionally, much like AEW Revolution was. Revolution in Greensboro Coliseum. It will always be the Greensboro Coliseum, by the way. It was put together for Sting. For Sting to wrestle his last match where he wanted to. This WrestleDream was put together so that Bryan Danielson can wrestle his final match where he wants to. And it's very evident that he has helped write the script. Tony Khan's given him the amount of respect that he has earned and deserved to do that. And this will be the way that Bryan Danielson wants to go out. Now, if I'm wrong, sue me. Whatever. I've been wrong before. But I just have a feeling we already know that Bryan Danielson is not going to win his final match because the moment he loses the title, he said he will leave. So he's going out on his back. It makes sense that it's his former Blackpool Combat Club running mate, somebody he trusts with his last match. It makes sense that Shane McMahon would come in and help pull the strings and help be that guide. As the Blackpool Combat Club has lost Bryan Danielson, as the Blackpool Combat Club has lost William Regal, it brings in Pac. It brings in Shane McMahon to help it to that next level. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. And so I want to go ahead and say thank you, Bryan Danielson. Thank you, Daniel Bryan, because you provide so many memories for Ring of Honor, you provide so many memories of WWE, and you provide so many memories with AEW. And from the bottom of my heart, I do want to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't want to come across as disrespectful. I see this where it is, and I want to acknowledge it before it happens. WrestleDream this weekend. I hope you're enjoying the rest of Wednesday's content on Boom. There's a lot of videos. There's a lot happening. There's a double dose of the nightcap talking about AEW's Title Tuesday and NXT from last night, where Javon Evans, Randy Orton. It's a big time in Boom. Drop the Mic will obviously be back next week. In addition, I'll be back for Out of Pocket tomorrow at 5:30. We're actually going to do our NFL picks on Thursday's episode. We won't have a Friday episode this week due to scheduling conflicts, but super excited to do those NFL picks, and we'll include that Thursday night football game for the first time on those NFL predictions. Aaron will come back and defend his crown. I can't wait to see that. But guys, we got to get out of here. Best of luck. Hope you guys enjoy WrestleDream this weekend. And until then, until we see you next week, don't drop the mic, and we'll catch you here next time.